Dubai is identified as a real estate money laundering hub. A new report says it's a haven for war profiteers, financiers of terror and drug traffickers, despite US sanctions. So, what's the government doing about it? And what's the security risk for Dubai's neighbours? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. Today with me, Peter Dobbie. Now with its skyscrapers, luxury villas and a high concentration of millionaires and billionaires, Dubai's rise to global city and business hub captured the world's attention. It's one of 7 emirates that make up the United Arab Emirates, an absolute monarchy long ruled by the Al Maktoum family. Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, its ruler, is the driving force behind the rapid development of the city, making it one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Dubai maintained its importance as a main trade route, particularly for gold, through the 70s and 80s. And as an oil-rich city, didn't rely only on its revenues, but diversified its economy. The service and tourism sectors helped accelerate its growth. Dubai is now famous for its huge property projects and world sporting events. So what's behind Dubai's real estate boom? Well, the Washington-based Center for Advanced Defense Studies, which goes under the acronym C4ADS, has obtained leaked property data from the city-state, and it's found that those who make money out of war, who finance terror, or who are involved in drug trafficking use Dubai's real estate market as a haven for money laundering. Its report identified around $100 million in what it's described as suspicious purchases of apartments, including million-dollar villas on the Palm, Jumeirah, and the Burj Khalifa. The centre says Dubai has what it calls a lax regulatory environment where secrecy and anonymity are prized above all else. Among individuals named in the report are Rami Maklouf, a cousin of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and a Lebanese businessman, Kamel and Issam Amhaz, sanctioned by the US in 2014 for helping Hezbollah. It also identified some $21 million in real estate held by individuals associated with the Altaf Kanani money laundering organization, a Pakistani ring that aided drug traffickers and groups like Al-Qaeda through its currency exchange houses. OK, let's bring in our guests here on Inside Story. From Berlin, we're going to be joined by Kelso, Advocacy Director at Transparency International, who also co-leads the Global Anti-Corruption Consortium. From London, Andreas Krieg, Assistant Professor at the Defence Studies Department at King's College London. And from Copenhagen, on Skype, Laurent Lambert, Senior Policy Analyst for the Social and Economic Survey Research Institute at Qatar University. Thank you and welcome to all of you for joining us. Casey, coming to you first, just paint us a fiscal picture, legal or illegal, of how they do what they do in Dubai.
Well, it's very interesting to read the revelations that came out of the leak that C4ADS had received. The Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, this journalist network, sent in a journalist to find out how exactly does it work, what is the machinations. They found that they preferred cash in suitcases, if you want, or wired, that most of the real estate agents said that there was no checks, there was no need to do any sort of filling out of paperwork that take care of that for them, that in particular, they did not need to disclose their owner of a beneficial owner of the company that would buy. So you could use a shell company to buy rather than in your individual name, so you could hide who it was that was buying some of the property. So the leak was quite important. Some 58,000 properties, 129,000 people from 184 countries. They went through with a fine-tooth comb and found different people who had an unsavory background had bought multi-million-dollar properties.
Do we know who leaked the information and why they wanted to leak the information?
We don't know why the information was leaked, but we do know that from many times, like in the Panama Papers, it can be people who want to stop the merry-go-round from going further. In particular, the OCCRP, this journalist network, had sent in someone that said that they were sick and tired of watching what happened with these failed deals. In one case in particular, you transfer in, you buy 4 buildings, then you cancel 1 week later, and then the money is then laundered because it's gone through the central bank. It's now clean money, and everyone gets a cut, and the money is returned back, and the buildings are not sold. This property real estate dealer said he was just really tired of watching this sort of fiddling going on with a business of selling real estate.
Andreas in London, is part of the issue here that there's never been a correctly built system of due diligence when it comes to the different financial aspects of dealing with these large amounts of money that's kind of reported upwards? There's no umbrella organisation here.
Yes, exactly, and that's the problem. I mean, this is a problem of the globalized world that we live in. Dubai has marketed itself as a global hub, a global city which is at the center of a lot of global networks that span the entire world. So we have gemstones and diamond dealers who are linked into West Africa, who launder their money there. We have drug and narcotics dealers from Latin America who launder their money there. We have people from the Middle East, all over the Middle East, whether they're regimes, part of authoritarian regimes, or other non-state actors are laundering money there. This is the nature of the globalized world, where we have network societies and global networks that all come together in one single hub, and the hub in this case is Dubai. Very difficult to actually clamp down on it, and this is some of the issues we've had in the past with terror financing in the Gulf all relate to the same issue, that it's very difficult, that there is not one enforcement mechanism globally that actually clamp down on it. But what's important to note here is that if sanctions are in place, and they are in place on many of these individuals that appear in this report, it's important that nation states enforce these sanctions coherently. And if one city-state, such as Dubai, decides not to do that, it creates a loophole where a lot of these individuals now can go to and launder their money, whereby other doors in other countries might have been shut. And I think this is the problem, because it undermines the nature of an international sanctions regime, and it somewhat undermines the clampdown that exists in other countries on these kind of illicit networks, for the most part being illicit networks, because they can just go somewhere else. And if one door opens, they all flood to that one door, and this one door has, for a very long time, has been Dubai.
Laura Lambert in Copenhagen, it's perhaps worth mentioning at this point in the programme that officially the government of Dubai has said nothing about this. We don't know if they will at some point in the future or not. Have any individuals, as far as you're concerned, Laurent, or as far as you've heard, have any individuals or separate companies been charged with anything here? And if they have, what was the tariff? I mean, what did they have to pay? What did they have to go through?
I'm not sure if I understood correctly your question, but if you're asking whether some people have been charged for money laundering in the United Arab Emirates, we do not have, as far as I know, any case where people from, let's say, Central Asia, from where for the last 2 decades there has been money laundering from drugs, for instance. We don't have any strong case of people who have been indicted, who have been arrested, or of whom the money has been frozen for money laundering money in Dubai or the United Arab Emirates. We have cases of people arrested for terrorism, charges of terrorism, but not generally related to the real estate. The real estate is sort of a case apart of the rest. Once in Dubai, you're not dealing with the national security of the United Arab Emirates. Generally, this is a very, very liberal economy, and there are very, very few arrestations, unless there is a clear mandate coming from Interpol that says these people will land in the United Arab Emirates. I don't foresee any arrestation related to money laundering in the real estate of Dubai or the United Arab Emirates, for that matter.
Casey, it seems like a very complex, almost like a three-dimensional spider's web here, because it goes to Mexico, it goes to Pakistan, it goes to Afghanistan. We've got the report that I read today was talking about 2 golfing projects that bear the logo of the Trump organization. And there was also talk about a carousel scheme a few years back involving London and Switzerland, the banking sector in Switzerland as well. Are we saying that everyone involved in this is consciously corrupt? I mean, one of the reports talks about wealthy Russians literally getting off a plane with bags of cash, buying apartments. They never live in the apartments. They seldom see them. Then they get on an Emirates flight and they fly out of Dubai. Are we saying that every individual is corrupt, or are they unknowingly taking part in this?
I think it's really hard to say who is corrupt and who is not. I think that the difficulty is that with the terrible, or the really enormous secrecy that's given in Dubai, as well as the permissiveness that rules that are good on paper are not enforced as diligently as you'd want, it's hard to untangle. And a lot of the grand corruption cases that Transparency International sees have their tracks that go into Dubai, and then it's a black box. You can't get much action there in terms of asset freezes, for example. So while London used to be a capital of corruption, it used to take a lot of the dirty money. As London has then adopted like a public beneficial ownership register that says that people who come in and do business there and have companies, they have to have an actual physical human name attached to each of those companies, then the dirty money goes elsewhere, and it looks like Dubai will profit from from London tightening up its own money laundering regulations. So whether it's the former Prime Minister of Thailand or the former President of South Africa or the former First Lady of Zimbabwe, they all have their houses there. Now, is that dirty money? It's hard to tell unless you can go in and have the authorities there start doing investigations of where did the money come from? Was this a suspicious transaction? Was there actual physical cash that was delivered there? That's something for the Dubai authorities to answer.
Andreas, does some of this go back as a tipping point to 2002 when the government decided you can buy a freehold property? So instead of buying a leasehold property where you in effect buy 99 years of a box of air which is occupied by an apartment, say, you're actually buying the freehold. You own the land on which the villa sits. So in terms of what the paperwork says when you sign it, that makes it easier for you if you want to do bad things with lots of money.
Yes, and I agree with my previous speakers here. I mean, London has a similar reputation, has a similar problem that people who make money, especially in Russia and in other countries, and they feel that, or in China, and feel that their money is not safe in their home country, they go and park it relatively safely in London. It doesn't necessarily mean that this money is dirty or not, but that's a different story. In Dubai, similar mechanism. The difference to London, though, is that in Dubai, the entire business model has been built on being a free port, being a free hub, attracting business, attracting investments, and attracting investments no matter where they come from. And that has been a business model that goes back to the 19th century in Dubai, where it was the first free port in this part of the world, in the Gulf. And knowingly, Dubai has been always a trading hub. Unlike Abu Dhabi and other Emirates and other states in the region, Dubai was never really rich in oil and gas. So it was never a very lucrative rentier state in the same way that Abu Dhabi was, for example. So Dubai very early on invested into building a service economy, trying to diversify away from the hydrocarbons. And one way of doing this is becoming a trading hub, attracting investments into the country, no matter where they came from. And by being so open about this, they were able to attract funds that other countries were not able to attract because there was no due diligence, there was no monitoring, and there still is no monitoring. And to be honest, the very integrity of the economy of Dubai and the resilience of Dubai, if you will, depends to a great deal on attracting these kind of investments. Because for the rest, I mean, Dubai is very much dependent on money coming from Abu Dhabi. So for Dubai to survive, this business model has to survive. And we shouldn't forget the Al Maktoum family is profiting from this as well, the ruling family of Dubai. And there's a lot of evidence, for example, that the Emirates Postal Service and their own exchange bureaus, for example, currency exchange bureaus, were involved in kind of money laundering schemes. And that was happening right under the nose of those rulers of Dubai. And that, in many ways, has gone against the interest of the Al Nahyans, who are ruling the United Arab Emirates and ruling Abu Dhabi. So policy in Abu Dhabi and policy in Dubai are not always the same thing, and they go, in this case, into opposite direction, particularly when we see how Abu Dhabi is clamping down on finances coming from Iran, whereby Dubai is the hub for the Iranian regime to basically circumvent the sanctions of recent years, and for individuals that are sanctioned in Iran doing business and parking their money in Dubai, although Abu Dhabi has a very anti-Iranian policy. So there's a bit of this bipolarity in the United Arab Emirates.
Clearly, Laurent Lambert in Copenhagen, the regulatory system as it stands at the moment needs to get better at doing what it does. I mean, officially since 2002, I think twice the government have said, we are going to do that, we are going to get better at this. But within that chain, what is the weakest link? So if you wanted to launder money, what would be the thing you would do, or the regulatory part of the system that you would go to get what you want?
Well, it really depends on which kind of investment we're speaking about. If we are speaking about, someone who is investing some little money, doesn't seem to be a big corporation investing millions of pounds, you don't need to go for the same kind of checkings that if you really have millions of pounds coming, and especially if they are coming in cash. Obviously regulations as to the transportation of money and large sums of money, as it was said before, you have, and this has been ongoing for decades, you have towards Dubai planes coming with mallets full of cash. This is something that should not be acceptable. There should be more inspections. It's not perfect, but in Europe, for instance, airports, and especially private airports, have a responsibility to investigate some of the flights which can seem to be a bit bizarre, landing at night, leaving just a few hours after. These kind of flights, which can, by the way, smuggle weapons, drugs, or human trafficking, these are the kind of flights which are not so much investigated as long as the people have apparently money to buy the willingness of the bankers and the authorities. They might even have political support. It's not so difficult to have a residency in Dubai once you have money. So it can become very easy for someone who tries to money launder money from a number of places, including South Asia, very importantly, but also Central Asia, Iran, and a number of places. It's pretty easy to get a residency as long as they have enough money, and there is not enough investigation. And here I would like to highlight a paradox. Dubai has a very sophisticated e-government platform. It's doing very well in international ranking for its online platforms and its e-services. So there is, on the one hand, a very sophisticated government portal, and there is, on the other hand, a problem, a clear problem, as it has been illustrated by this report, with regards to investigating where the money comes from. And so we cannot say that this is a small country, a developing country, because on the one hand, it has the resources. And it has resources also for policy matters, and also to crush its internal political opposition, it should be said. So the same kind of resources is never used to investigate the origin of the funding as long as the money is invested in the real estate. This is a key concern. There are many reforms that could be done. First and foremost, regulations as to how the money can enter the country. This is a very important point.
Casey, I think you wanted to come in there.
Oh, just to say that the key point as well is, I think that what the speaker is saying is correct, that looking at, if you're looking for loopholes in your question, one of the things that it is the money coming in, but it's for real estate. What we've seen is a pattern of real estate being quite key in money laundering. Time and time again, if you're going to try to get a profit off of the money, if you're going to park it somewhere, if you want to keep its value, whether it's Russians or it's people from China who are fleeing and trying to take out their assets, they're trying to put it into real estate. And that combination, as the speaker has said, that you can actually get a visa, a residency in Dubai, and thereby be able then to have that ability to reside there and escape law. It's the real estate in particular that is a key thing. And it's not just Dubai. TI had done before a review of how the UK, Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom each had this flaw, a fatal flaw on the real estate sector in particular. So you can regulate the banks. You might be able to regulate then the airports, but you have to try to get the people who are selling the properties to be able to have a fit and proper test to make sure that they know what is their money laundering responsibilities to report a suspicious transaction. So it's the key part is the real estate agents in particular and the property that is sold.
Understand that. Let's just put that point to Andreas. Andreas, if you put together the fact that there are 5,000 multinational companies now registered in Dubai with the e-platform issues that Laurent Lambert was talking about there, do you have to get Dubai to move to a situation like they have in the UK, where they have a national intelligence agency that takes an overarching responsibility for all the individual bits of the jigsaw that would end up with due diligence?
Absolutely. But I think it's, I agree with the speaker from Denmark here. It is it's not an issue of capacity and capability or resources. It is a problem of willingness. As I said before, this is a business model, and it is the business model that works very well for Dubai. So I don't think there is the willingness to actually clamp down on this and create this. Because let's not forget, the United Arab Emirates are a surveillance state in many ways. They have a superior monitoring capabilities about money going in, money going out, where it comes from, who is it coming from. You know, they have clamped down on all kinds of threats domestically, what they consider to be terrorism. But the way they consider and define terrorism is always in reference to their own national security. They don't always abide by international standards, and because they're very selective. So if people bring in money, people like the Maktoum family, for example, which very much helped the Assad family stay afloat financially, if they park their money in Dubai, this is something they don't clamp down on because it's not a threat to national security. So it's really about the monitoring. And the UAE are very, very good on monitoring. If you come to Dubai, by the time you leave Dubai, you're probably being filmed by over 1,000 security cameras. So they have all kinds of profiling for people coming in, and the intelligence services work very, very well. When it serves their national security interests, they're very quick in arresting people and putting people away or denying people entry into the country. You know, there have been loads of academics, for example, who wanted to come to Dubai, but they have said something bad about the UAE before. They were not allowed to enter. So if you have a willingness to clamp down, they can do it. The problem here is I don't think there is the willingness to do it.
Very briefly, because we are coming to the end of the programme, Laurent Lambert, what are the chances that they introduce in Dubai another monitoring system, say, for example, such as they have in America? If you and I are Americans and I give you more than 1 cent, more than 10,000 US dollars, that blips on somebody's radar and I have to fill in a piece of paperwork online that says why I'm doing it. What are the chances they bring that in?
Well, it's very unlikely in the near future. That's very honest. I don't foresee it in the near future because they are depending on the non-oil economy to keep on increasing because they are completely running out of oil. They used to have little, they have almost nothing left. They are net importers of natural gas. Their energy security is a key concern. Now, I would like to be fair with Dubai. Dubai, as it was said, is not the only country which has problems with money laundering in the real estate. And there is another problem, is that the real estate has also many sorts across the planet, by the way. And you can find it in France, in Europe, in the United States, and so on. The real estate is generally a sector sort of protected, at least by the governments which turn a blind eye on, for instance, moonlighting, people who are illegal residents but who work in the construction sector and thus feeding the construction industry and the real estate. So I would like to say that this is a broader problem. Dubai, of course, is a key case in point in terms of turning a blind eye on money laundering, sometimes of coming from drugs and terrorism. But I would like to say that this is a broader problem and this needs to be addressed because we don't know also what are the conditions of building this real estate. And we don't know a lot of things about that. And I think increased transparency in Dubai and elsewhere is very much something we need to see coming in the years to come.
Gentlemen, an interesting debate and conversation. Thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you to our guests, Casey Kelso, Andreas Krieg and Laurent Lambert. And thank you to you two for your company. You can see the programme again anytime via the website aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter, our handle @AJ Inside Story. From me, Peter Dobbie, and the team here in Doha, thanks for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.